Hi everyone, it's Jai452 back again inside the land of cosplay. Trying to get inside cosplay, we are. See what I did there, guys? Joining me this week is my special guest, Rebel Rogue.
Woo!
Hi Rebel!
Hi!
How are you today?
I'm fantastic.
It's wonderful. So we're just going to jump right in there with the questions, and I'm going to ask you, when did you first start cosplaying?
Oh, I'll give away my age here, but I first started cosplaying when I was probably about 15, and that was a long, long time ago, back in the early noughties. And at the time, there was a big American scene for cosplay, but not so big in terms of regular meets and things like that in Scotland and in Britain generally. So yeah, it was quite lonely at the time, being a teenager, being the only person that I knew that was into cosplay, but I kept at it, and here I am today, so yeah.
Awesome. Do you remember what your first cosplay was?
Surprisingly, it was not a Rogue cosplay. I used to be really into Gundam Wing when I was about 15, when Toonami on, it's such a long time ago, Toonami on Cartoon Network used to show Gundam Wing, so I used to have long hair when I was a teenager. So I used to cosplay as Duo Maxwell from Gundam Wing. And thankfully all evidence of that cosplay no longer exists. So that's all good.
That is actually kind of similar to a conversation I was having with somebody previously. They were saying to me about their first cosplay and how it no longer exists, and I shared a story with them saying, well, my first ever cosplay was not Harley Quinn, or should I say Hayden Quinn, because that's my kind of style for it. It was actually Edward Elric from Full Metal Alchemist. And I am so happy to see that there is no evidence of that anywhere, because it was such a terrible cosplay.
Oh, tell me about it.
If I still had the pictures for it, I would look back on it and cringe. Severely just cringe.
Well, it's one of these things as well. It's like one of these awkward teenage kind of photographs anyway. Like, you know what? I see kids every day. I see people at conventions and stuff who are like teenagers and totally rocking trends and rocking fashion and just looking amazing in their cosplays. That was not me. So I'm quite happy that none of that exists anymore. In my head, that's where it's going to stay. But yeah, definite awkward stage. Yeah.
Definitely. Do you think it was because you didn't know too much about how to put together a costume, or is there another reason why you would look back on that and just kind of cringe?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's the whole awkward teenageness of it. But yeah, I mean, definitely you can go into eBay and Amazon. There are cosplay stockists online now that you can really easily get access to. When I was a teenager, there were people online who were commissioning things, but they were all the same. They were all really expensive. And eBay, you typed in cosplay and there was pretty much nothing there. Now you type in cosplay and you get hundreds of results. So yeah, it was difficult to put things together. I think as well, when I was that age, I didn't have the money to spend on cosplay, and as you know, it can be a pricey business, pricey hobby. So yeah, there's a lot of factors that now that I'm an adult and I have a wage and cosplay's exploded, it's made it much, much easier. But yeah, I do remember making an Alan Shazar from Escaflowne costume out of navy blue taffeta that my mum had bought for her bridesmaids dresses when she was getting married. And sitting at a sewing machine at 3 o'clock in the morning. So it was about making men, see what you could find, see what you could make out of it, and yeah, that was a lot of fun. Enjoyed that part, but yeah, a lot of different reasons why I would kind of cringe.
Do you know the worst of it? I still own the a piece of the Edward Elric thing that I did, because obviously I had no it was a fancy dress thing that I was going to, and I didn't really have an awful lot of time. I had less than 2 days to make a costume for it. So I think I still have the wig that I used somewhere. I don't know where. But it's really badly cut because all I had the opportunity to do was get a wig, pleat for the ponytail, and then try and do the fringe that he has. Like that weird pointed fringe. And if you've ever had to try and do something like that, it is not the easiest thing to do. You know, I basically had to cut it at an angle, and I couldn't get it to cut at said angle, so it just ends up like looking like this weird kind of shaped bang.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, if I ever had the opportunity to redo that,
you should definitely reboot it.
I will completely get a different wig for it in general. But I do still have the actual thing that I used for his big long coat, because obviously, like, within 2 days you can't make a metal arm. You can't even make a cover for a metal arm. So I still have the thing that I used as a jacket, but my mum wouldn't let me get like a black Sharpie and draw on the logo. So I had to use like felt and pin it on. I didn't even have time to sew it on. But I still have the thing that I used for a red jacket. It was actually a red snuggly. So I was so warm the entire night.
I bet you were. I mean, I actually quite like that. You know, it's so easy to go online and buy stuff, or to go to a fabric store and just buy it, but I have fond memories of converting things into costumes like that. Like, I went a couple of years to the only, to my knowledge at the time, the only anime convention that was on in Britain was called Amicon, and it was run by Leicester University. I don't know if they still run it these days, but I decided to take a few costumes, and one of them was Doris Lang from the original Vampire Hunter D film, and it's a kind of light blue costume. And I was like, where am I going to get this fabric? And my mother was going to do some painting, so she dug out some of these like old bed covers, and I was like, oh, that's what I need. And she was like, are you kidding me on? It's like going threadbare in parts of it, that's why I'm using it as a dust sheet. And I was like, no, it's fine, I'll cut round that. So I remember going to this convention and people taking photographs of me and being really impressed, and I was like, haha, little do you know this is an old bed sheet. So there's something about that that's quite charming and quite enjoyable, recycling stuff. I like that about cosplays.
Do you know the worst of it? Do you know the worst of it? I was there that night, and it was in a hall of like 200 to 300 people. Yeah? And out of those 200 to 300 people, how many people do you think knew who I was?
Probably one person.
Yes! One person, only one, knew exactly who I was. And the worst of it, because this was like a family event, I was like, I had to go outside because at that point I was really, really warm, and I had to go and get some fresh air. And I was sitting on a wall, and this person came out and she's like, I just wanted to ask you something. And I was like, yes. Yes. You know, because as you do when you're a cosplayer, you're like, yes. Panting away. And she says to me, are you Edward Elric? And I immediately jumped up and was like, are you related to me by chance? And she's like, I don't think so. And I was like, get in here, you know who I am, well done. She's like, so you are Edward? And I'm like, yes, thank you for knowing who I am. You're a geek like me.
This used to happen. You know, I had a friend whose family always planned a big charity Halloween party. And as everybody cosplayer knows, Halloween is like, you know, it's like the purge. It's like the one night of the year you can go out in public and be like, I'm a normal person, kind of. No offence to cosplayers out there who view themselves as normal people. We are all normal people, not trying, but you know, it does make you feel different.
I think there's something about staying up until 2 o'clock in the morning sewing or painting something, you know, that kind of sets us apart from the rest of the world.
This is true. I mean, this is true. But, you know, I remember going to this party and being dressed as Rogue and being really proud of my costume. And, like, everybody kept coming up to me and being like, are you Cher? And I was like, no, I'm not Cher. What are you talking about? You know, I recently went to another charity party that was a kind of 90s thing. And it was really funny because there's something about, like, young women, girls have no idea who I'm supposed to be. It's always guys, because they find comic books are maybe more accessible or whatever. But all these guys about my age who'd grown up watching the X-Men animated series, and were like, she's Rogue. Yeah, are you sure? Yeah, she's Rogue. Look at her. Look at the white streak. And I was like, you can't talk to me. I'm actually not Rogue. Like, if you like X-Men, I will talk to you about X-Men. It's all good. I'm not going to, like, touch you and suck your eye, you know? I was like, what? So there's, I think, yeah, definitely find that really funny, that kind of...
I love that intimidation factor. You know, like, if you're known for a particular cosplay, or known for a particular, like, I'm not even going to say cosplay at that point, if you're known for a particular costume.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people get really quite intimidated about coming up and speaking to you, which is so stupid, because, like, 95% of the time, cosplayers are, like, I don't want to use this, like, phrase, but I'm going to have to, but we're attention whores. You know, we like that attention. Come up and talk to us. You know? Definitely.
I think there's a kind of, there's a lot of introverted people that find that when they put the costume on, they're not themselves anymore, they are the character, and they enjoy, that's where that kind of extrovert comes. I think you're totally right. But I think, you know, I have to say, you know, I go to conventions and sometimes I misinterpret maybe that, I don't know if it's intimidation, but that kind of, oh, I don't want to go and speak to this person because I don't really know them, as not wanting to speak to you. And which is funny, because I also, as you say, intimidation, I do feel intimidated sometimes that I want to go and compliment someone in their cosplay. I don't know why I don't do it, you know, and maybe that comes off as a bit cold or superior or something. I mean, as I say, generally, I cosplay Rogue because I love her. I don't cosplay her because she's going to get the most likes, or she's going to have people approach her, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with choosing a cosplay like that, but that's not my motivation. So I do get people who approach me or say, oh, I love your costume, or I love Rogue, and that's great, but I don't get the same attention that maybe a Harley Quinn would get, or someone's Batman, or what, you know, because she is a mainstay of the X-Men, but I don't think she's as well regarded generally as some of the others, like Wolverine or Psylocke, are not as recognisable somehow. But yeah, I noticed that about cosplay. Yeah.
I think that's always a really interesting factor. But my next question for you is, who or what inspired you to cosplay?
I think ever since I was a child, I've been, well, my mum likes to call a poser. I've always, whenever there's been family parties or whatever, I've always, you know, I was like 5 years old, sticking a leotard on and dancing around the Jungle Book or something like that. And when I grew up, I started to do amateur dramatics. And I've been doing that for quite a while. I've taken a hiatus since I got married. But I did a lot of stuff, Calamity Jane, The Wizard of Oz, tons of stuff, really musical stuff. And I think this is kind of in the same vein, you know, that kind of idea of, there's a performance element, there's the kind of dressing up, there's the, you say, that kind of extroverted sort of attention holding, I suppose there's a bit of that. And I think they all kind of go hand in hand. It just seemed like a natural progression, you know.
Is there any one particular person that inspired you to cosplay? Like, say, there's a handful of people over in America that are extremely well known for their cosplays. Like, for instance, Chris Villain, who does a lot of musical videos on YouTube, who we have interviewed before, so go check out his interview as well. And people like Joker's Harley and Harley's Joker, two very, very well-known cosplayers. Is there anybody like that that had inspired you in the past to, like, say, right, I'm going to go and cosplay, and these people are like an inspiration to me because they're essentially doing it as a career? You know, people like Jessica Negri, even, you know. I mean, again, I started cosplay a little bit earlier than a lot of these people were famous. But yeah, early on, the only way that I could sort of live out the cosplay was online, because all you could do was sort of trawl through pictures of American conventions and sort of lurk about the cosplayers' websites and stuff. So I think the one that, I don't know how well this cosplayer's known now, I haven't heard about them in a long time, but when I was a kid, it was Pikmin Link.
I don't know again if that's a kind of, but Pikmin Link did Zelda, Legend of Zelda Link cosplays, and I think actually he was taken on by Nintendo for some of their E3 events and things, you know, because it was so amazing at the time. I mean, I remember he did a shoot with a horse that was Epona. It was just the actual horse, you know, like they just like cloned this horse, and it was amazing. And he and his father worked on the shield, the swords, the ocarina of time, all of this stuff out of resin. It looked amazing, and for me, it was inspirational, but it also, the kind of person I am, it also sort of made me a little bit depressed, because I thought, I'm never going to achieve that level.
Yeah. I think that in and itself, like when you're looking at people who inspire you in that regard, you always have that little, I'm never going to be on that level.
Yeah.
You know, which is really sad, because like I mentioned at least 3 people there that inspire me. Like I was extremely inspired by Joker's Harley and Harley's Joker. Those are 2 of my inspirations for cosplaying. And I always looked at their stuff and said, I am never going to reach that level. But after talking with, like I've had, I think, conversations with one of them via social media, and they've said to me, you know, don't ever look at cosplay in that regard. You know, don't think you're never going to reach that level, because your skills are always improving with each day. You know, and I always think that that is such an inspirational thing to say to somebody, like, never give up, because you might not have that particular skill today, but that doesn't mean to say that you're not going to learn it and have it tomorrow.
This is very true. I mean, I'd certainly say that I look back at the first version of Rogue that I did for Amicon, and I was still using the same bodysuit until about 3 or 4 months ago, that I used when I was 17, which was quite a feat. But it was wonderful to see just the elements of my costume that had come on, even things like my presence as the character, you know, posing and the confidence that I had. And I would certainly agree that you're always improving. And I think as well, you need to take risks.
Definitely.
I think with your costume as well, and push yourself.
Definitely.
And with me, it's trying to sew Lycra bodysuits is an acquired skill. And I don't think I'm there yet, but I am making progress, and that's the important thing. And I mean, my own personal approach to cosplay is that, you know, I'm 30. That's okay with me. I'm having a sort of early midlife crisis, but I'm okay. But you know, there is going to be a point where I'm no longer going to want to, or I'm not no longer going to feel comfortable cosplaying in like a catsuit. So whether I still want to cosplay if I'm not willing to cosplay as Rogue, I don't know. But this year is my big year.
You could do different. You could do different versions of Rogue. You know, there's not always the ones where she's in the bodysuit.
That's true.
Which leads me. Sorry, go ahead.
You know, there are a few that I do have planned that are not like bodysuits. But I mean, this year I do have a 2-year-old, and I'm thinking about maybe having another child in the near future. So that has a big bearing as well, and there's a kind of confidence about, well, you know, how much longer is it appropriate for me to do this, and how much longer am I going to have time. So this year for me is like a marker. It's a kind of I want to try and do as many photo shoots, do as many costumes as I can this year, so that if this time next year I have to close the door on cosplay, I won't have any regrets. I'll have done all of the things that I wanted to do. And I think that's important, even if you're not going to set yourself any sort of deadline, even if you're a younger person and you've got years and years and years and years, or if you're an older person and you're just like, to hell with it. I think you just have to say, well, it doesn't matter about my body shape, it doesn't matter about my skill level, I'm going to cosplay, the shit out of anybody that I want to. You know, I'm just going to do it. And that's a lesson I'm teaching myself.
Good. Just to kind of add on to that, like, I don't think that it should limit you. You know, like when you've made the decision whether or not you're having another child, I don't think that should stop you. You know, I think if you're doing cosplay, get the kids involved. You know, because I've been very, very fortunate to work with children myself, and I can tell you, bar none, that whenever I pulled out the costume box, that thing was empty within 2 seconds. You know, children love dressing up. So I would say even get your daughter, your children involved, get them dressing up, teach them. Because like I do have a friend over in America, and she takes her daughter to cosplay events, and she's actually like, the daughter isn't too old, you know, she's not like grasped the full concept of everything around her, but she's started to learn how to sew, you know, so it's like, wow, you know, so the child is really actively wanting to learn all of this. So,
and, you know, you're totally right, because I think that I'm kind of torn between two impulses. I want my daughter to see her mum doing something that she really enjoys, and not just being kind of ordinary and, you know, that kind of thing, you know, doing something, and I don't want her to be a little girl who feels pressure to be a Disney princess if she doesn't want to be, you know, so I want to be a good example to her that way. At the same time, I don't want to kind of mould her into a miniature me. I want her to be her own person. But I do think that from the point of view of the community that now exists, the support you can get, the actual skill and the craft involved, I think it's a wonderful thing. Yeah. And again, it sort of comes back, I agree with everything you say, but it comes back on a personal level, simply just to me, not knowing whether I want to cosplay if I'm not cosplaying Rogue. You know what I mean? So,
okay.
You know, that's the big thing. And, you know, people have asked me, why do you cosplay Rogue? And, you know, that I could wax lyrical all night about why I cosplay Rogue. But again, I think when you find cosplayers who stick to one character, there's something about it that, you know, I have tried to cosplay other people. I've started costumes and then just abandoned them. But there's something about it, and I think that, I don't know, I would need to wait and cross that bridge when I come to it, but I don't know if I want to cosplay anymore if I don't want to do Rogue. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, I think it's wonderful to get your kids involved. But we'll wait and see. See if she's interested.
We'll see. Hopefully we'll see a little Rogue Junior running around in the future.
You never know.
So, on that front, I'm going to ask you, what has been the most challenging cosplay that you've ever done to date that works on both the making of the costume and the acting side of it? Because there is a tiny part involved, probably the minutest amount of acting involved in cosplay, whether that be how a character stands, how they talk, how they interact, even just with people. So let's talk about the acting side first. So what to date has been the most challenging character for you to cosplay as from an acting point?
Yeah, again, within Rogue, I'm all about trying to depict different costumes and different scenarios that she's been involved in, and one of those, I did a photo shoot at MCM last year. Was the first sort of actual proper professional photo shoot I did with Alistair Watson, and that was my uncanny Outback Rogue, and in that storyline, they go to Genosha, and it turns out that it's not the main character they thought it was, and they have to you know, try and they're captured. Rogue loses her power at one point, and it's alluded to that something pretty awful happens to her at the hands of the guards. And one of my favourite parts of Rogue's character is the bit that most people would identify with is the invulnerability, you know, of not being able to touch people, about having that choice taken away, about isolation, and everyone feels that to a degree or another. So I really loved doing all the sort of power shots and you know, the really strong stances, but equally I loved doing the really vulnerable shots in that shoot. It was really, really enjoyable. I really liked to get to the meat of that. And having said that, I've got another shoot planned with Julie Ross, which is going to be a sort of portraiture, which is going to be a bit nerve-wracking because it's like all up in your face, but that's going to focus on that side of Rogue's character. In terms of the technical part of things, and I suppose the acting as well, the last cosplay that I did was at Capital Sci-Fi Con, and it excites me because there's one niche with Rogue especially that I think hasn't been exploited by cosplayers, and that's the stolen powers. So we see glimpses in the comics where she takes other X-Men's powers. So she has Wolverine claws, and she has Colossus skin, and all the different combinations. So I've started to try to do that. So Capital Sci-Fi Con was my first outing, so I had Colossus skin, holes in my costume where I had a bodysuit that was all painted up, I had some Wolverine claws, bone claws, and a Nightcrawler tail. And it was really funny. It was so satisfying to see some people's faces when they figured out what the hell you were. They were like, "Oh, that's amazing! I've never seen that before." And I was like, "Yeah, no, what's with that?" So I think that if cosplay is a short-term hobby for me, I'd like to really do some work on the stolen powers and get them really technically up to scratch and get some good shoots with them. And I would be happy that, you know, I was kind of the Rogue cosplayer who did that. So I think that also, there's an acting element in that. You know, she takes her powers, she takes her personality, the memories. So I'm going to experiment with that, some of the kind of more Wolverine poses, some of the sort of crouched Nightcrawler stuff. So that's going to be a lot of fun when I start to explore that properly. So,
awesome.
Yeah, be good.
So I have a similar question for you now, which is, in your opinion, what is the most challenging or difficult thing? What is the most difficult thing or character to cosplay as? And this is in both regards to yourself and what you think is the most challenging character or thing for other people who could just starting in cosplay to cosplay as.
Sure.
So let's start with who or what you think is the most challenging thing to cosplay as for yourself.
I think, yeah, for myself, again, it's kind of difficult because I'm limited to just sort of Rogue. I think any cosplay where you are exposing skin or you're kind of wearing something that's very figure hugging, there's a lot of, as we've talked about before, when you know, we were talking a little bit earlier about overheating in your cosplays and being really warm and stuff. There's a lot of practical issues there. So for me, it probably is the kind of the confidence that you need to kind of be willing to, you know, Rogue's fine because she's covered up. You know, there's other cosplayers I see out there who look amazing with skin showing, and, you know, they're not all necessarily, you know, your Jessica Negris. They're ordinary people who don't have, like, you know, bombshell bodies like her. And I think that takes a lot of guts. I would say, though, that one of the other things that I think is quite challenging is when you're cosplaying a character who, to all intents and purposes, dresses like an ordinary person. You know, they don't have massive crazy hair or bright costumes, and it's to try and oh, sorry, guys, I'm going to have to plug my charger in. I'm sorry, give me 2 seconds.
No problem. We'll be right back, guys. Okay, so you said that cosplaying as Rogue is kind of where you're at, and like, what was it you were saying about being something being one of the more difficult cosplays?
Yes.
In your own opinion?
Yeah, I think that when you cosplay as someone who isn't, you know, a superhero or an anime character with really distinguishable features, when you're cosplaying someone who, you know, for example, someone from Supernatural, or, you know, I can't think of any other stuff there, you know, like, just, you know, TV shows or movies that don't have distinguishable features, I think it then becomes all about the performance. You know, it's all about how do you remind people of that character, and I think that's a massive challenge. I really do.
Okay.
Yeah.
We will be right back, guys. So yeah, like, dressing in normal clothing can be kind of risky because you run the risk of somebody not knowing who you are. A friend of mine actually wanted me to cosplay as Max Caulfield from Life is Strange, and I've been very apprehensive about doing that particular character, simply because it's like she only really wears a handful of clothing that doesn't really stick out. So I'd be very, very concerned that the cosplay performance that I would give would just slip into the background, you know. So from that angle, I understand why those kind of cosplays could easily very quickly fade into obscurity. Is there any particular character or thing that you would advise other people not to cosplay as when they're just starting out?
I think it depends what you want from your cosplay. I think if you... I'm so sorry.
It's fine.
So annoying, I don't know how to put it off now. So yeah, I think if you're trying, depending on what you want to do, if you want to just have fun and cosplay as your character, go for it. If you want to make some sort of semi-fiction gear, sorry about this. You want to. It's Facebook alerts. It's so annoying. I can't do anything. So I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it.
I think if you want to kind of make your mark in the fan community and you want to be a figure and you want to build a sort of reputation, I think that you have to try and avoid some of the more cliche cosplays. You know, the ones that everyone wants to do that particular year. And I'm not saying you don't do them at all, but I think that you avoid doing them when everyone else is. Because again, you talked about fading into obscurity. That could easily happen. I think you go with your strengths, and I think that depending on how skilled you are, I think you focus on what you term to be, or you decide to be the most signature part of that cosplay. So, for example, I've put a lot of emphasis on to getting my wigs as good as I can get them, because I know that for many people, they will only be able to distinguish which character I'm cosplaying as because they recognise Rogue with the white streak. So I spend a lot of time on the wigs, and I think that you need to kind of decide on what is the distinguishing feature of your character, and put your time and your effort into that. And that will pay dividends, because everything else will get better. And if you've got one element of your costume that's really good to start with, you know, you draw attention to yourself because of it, and you have something that's really encouraging, so you don't feel like, well, you know, I worked really hard, but you know, my costume's not as I'd like it to be. You've got this one bit that you think, I worked so hard on it, it looks good, people have complimented me, I feel good about it. So that would be my advice, yeah.
Awesome. So my next question for you is, what are the 3 best things that a new cosplayer can do when they're getting prepared to go to a cosplay event, or even to just do a cosplay? And also, what are the 3 worst things that they can do? So let's start with the 3 best things that they can do.
3 best things. Hydrate. Drink plenty. Not too much, because you don't want to run to the toilet all the time, but it can be so easy not to eat and not to drink when you're so excited and you're having so much fun and meeting people, and it's great, but you need to take some time to look after yourself. You hear every year about people who pass out or become ill, and you really don't want to leave and get con flu. That's just the worst. You get con blues anyway, so don't you know, make it worse for yourself. I think another one would be, don't be afraid to speak to people. Go and introduce yourself. I mean, MCM last year introduced me to a couple of X-Men cosplayers that I hadn't met before, and as a result, I've just, back in March, I just did the most amazing photo shoot at Shatlerall Country Park, X-Men photo shoot. And if I hadn't approached those people for a photograph or to introduce myself or say hello, then I might not have met them online. I might not have come across them. So it's important that you really have to just be brave, you know, and approach people. And most people, 99% of people, will be super, super lovely to talk to. And I think the third thing that you must do is, as I said before, take risks and cosplay who you want to cosplay, because you'll only enjoy that. You know, if you cosplay something that you think someone told you should do, or, you know, well, I've got this stuff at home and I could do this, cosplay what you want. That's most important. Like, yeah.
Awesome. So what would you say are the 3 worst things that a new cosplayer can do?
It's hard to say. I think be intimidated by people. That's probably the worst you can do, because it's a lot of that will be in your own head. And those people who do belittle you or do say things or do give you sort of derisive looks and things, you know, those are people who have their own problems, which are not yours. And I think the worst thing you can do is take that to heart. I think another thing that you could do, which would probably rank up there among the worst, would be to not try something because your skill set isn't there yet. As we talked before, it's all a journey, it's all a process. No matter what you do, I mean, I'm also someone who would, maybe when cosplay's done, I'll fill the void with do more independent comics, because that's something that I've always loved, I always wanted to do. And part of me I don't do a lot of drawing because I don't have time, but part of it's because I'm frightened of failure as well. I don't want to put lots of time and effort into something that I'm going to fail at. But I know at the same time the only way I'm actually ever going to get better at it is if I keep doing it. So I would say that don't have fear of failure. And I think the third thing, let me think. Third thing I would say would be don't be frightened to fill your calendar. You know, money is a tight thing, and cons cost money. There's a lot, especially in Scotland, there's a lot of very regular, small events that are local, that are not expensive. Go along. Don't save yourself up for the big cons or say, well, I'm not going, I don't know anyone who's going, I'm not going to go. Go. You will meet people and you'll have a fantastic time. It's taken me till I'm about 30 to really, really understand that and to appreciate that. So yeah, definitely, that would be my...
I know the feeling. So, when you're mentioning cons, there are two types of cons that you can go to. There is the big once-a-year ones, like your Glasgow Film and Comic Cons, your Edinburgh Film and Comic Cons, your London ones, and equally over in the States, there's the Seattle and New York ones that happen only once a year.
Yeah.
And on the flip side to that, there are ones that happen every 2 months. At the very least every 2 months, if not every month. And if you live over in the States, sometimes depending on where you are, it's every weekend.
Yes.
So, that being said, which do you prefer going to? Do you prefer going to the big once-a-year ones, the smaller, more local ones, or do you like a blend of the two?
I like a blend of the two. I love doing some of the local ones because it's okay to mention names.
Yeah, well, you can mention some names, yeah.
Okay. I do hosting for the Big Glasgow Comic page. And I do stuff for them on, a bi-monthly basis sort of thing. And I love doing that. I love doing the cosplay hosting. Again, it goes back to that amateur dramatic stuff. I really enjoy not necessarily being the focus of it, but actually being part of something and encouraging people. And I love especially the under 16s competitions that I host. I love seeing these kids who are so proud of their costumes, coming up and being happy to talk to you and showing off and doing their poses, and it's fantastic. So I really enjoy that. But I love the feeling of going to something that's so much bigger than yourself, going to the big events that, you go along and you meet people you've never seen before. It's just so huge and it's so exciting. So I think that a combination of those is really quite healthy. I like it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, when we're talking about these Comic-Con events, the question I have next for you is, what is the one thing that you're most excited for when you go to either an event that's either big or small, and the one thing that you either still do or used to find most nerve-wracking? So let's start with the most nerve-wracking thing. Like, what, when you were attending these events, did you find most nerve-wracking or still kind of do on some level?
Yeah. I find, as funny as this sounds after I've just spoken about hosting cosplay competitions, I've entered a couple at local level, which I didn't, win anything at, or, which is not the point, but, but I've never entered for any of them because I just don't think that I'm up to scratch. I don't know. I think that I don't know, I can't pinpoint why exactly I just don't feel confident enough to do them. And I feel that there's so many really good cosplayers out there that are kind of a bit pointless for me. And I know it's not about winning it or anything like that, but you know, I've always felt a bit self-conscious. So yeah, haven't done any of those in a long time. So, yeah, that's the nerve from that.
So what is one of the things that when you go to these events that you're really excited for?
I'm really excited. I love going to them when I meet vendors that I know quite well. Mm-hmm. And I love to see people whose money, you know, who put their time and their money and their effort into being the kind of grassroots of a lot of the kind of geek community in you know, Scotland or whatever. So I really enjoyed that, but I think what makes me most excited is simply going in a new costume and meeting people I already know, or meeting new people, like, as I say, at Capital Sci-Fi Con with my Stolen Powers Rogue costume. I was so excited to see what people would think of it. And some of the reactions I got were amazing, and they were so satisfying, you know, so I really like people recognising the character, sharing their love of the character, and sharing their excitement at your costume. I love that.
Now, you mentioned about not entering into any of the competitions that you've kind of been present at. Is that something that you're possibly going to change in the future? That you'll take the plunge and enter into a competition?
I might do it as part of a group. I don't... One of my big problems is that as much as I love being Rogue, I don't know, and again, as much as I love doing Amdram, I don't know how confident I am at the performance side in terms of the vocal aspects and portraying the character that way. And I think performance is becoming, especially at Scottish events that I've noticed, is becoming a big part of these things, is having your bit, you know, and doing your bit. And, you know, there's a couple of cosplayers who are really, really good at that. And I would need to work hard on it before I felt really comfortable about doing that, yeah.
Now, it's funny you should mention that, because I've got two stories about performances here. Last year, I went to Glasgow Film and Comic Con as Poison Ivy.
Wow.
And I spent the entire day jumping between warm and cold. You know, because my costume was very revealing. Sorry. So yeah, my body temperature was just going nuts that entire day. You know, it was like, I'm cold, I'm warm, I'm cold, I'm warm, I'm cold, I'm warm. I do remember actually going up to Luna Cosplay, who was judging that year, or was one of the judges, and she was dressed as Spike, a gender-bent Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I remember running up to her and going, oh, I need a hug, I'm so cold. And she was wearing this big, massive leather jacket, and she came up and she hugged me, and I was like, as she was hugging me, I just kind of whispered to her, can I borrow your jacket? I'm so bloody cold. She's like, but then I'll be cold. And I'm like, that's not my problem. I'm cold right now. But, you know, me and Luna have a really good relationship, because she doesn't actually live all that far away from me. And she refers to me as her bus buddy, because like, whenever we travel to Glasgow, we always seem to end up on the same goddamn bus. You know, so like when she gets on, I'll wave her down and say, I'm over here, come sit by me. And that's if she hears me. So, but you know, I love you, my bus buddy, you're awesome. You know, you should have given me that jacket, I was really, really cold. So when it came time for me to register, I registered and said, okay, I'll do a bit of a performance. And you know yourself, the scenario is you do your bit, you go up, you perform, you pose, and you walk off.
Yeah.
Now, this was running through my mind as I was queuing between a group of people who were doing like the Ministry of Magic and the Predator behind me. So I'm standing there going, right, okay, I'm remembering my lines, I remember what I have to say. And they called me up onto stage, so I went up, did the performance, and then, I don't know what it was about it, but I just immediately put down the mic and then walked off stage. And then I got up to my cousin who was filming the event for me, and I was watching the rest of the event, and I was like, oh, this is good, this is good. They called out the winners and such likes. And then it wasn't until we were on the drive home that I was like, crap, I didn't post for the judges. And I was like, well, tough, nothing I can do about it now. Which actually brings me to a point when we first met, because we met at a Halloween event in Glasgow. And I remember you asking me at one point, do you want the mic? And I think it was just before like the cosplay event started, they kind of organised us all, and it turns out I was up first, and you said, do you want the mic? And I'm like, no, just no, no. And the reason why, because like, I don't know whether you'd ever thought about why the hell didn't he take the mic, was simply because I had not perfected the Harley Quinn type of voice then. And any Harley Quinn cosplayer will know it is not easy to do the original accent or voice. Arlene Sorkin and Tara Strong have that to a T, and hats off to them. But it was very hard for me specifically even to transfer it for a male voice. It just wasn't going to happen. Hence the reason why I've never really spoken too much as Harley. Because it's just not going to happen.
Right. I get exactly what you mean, because obviously Rogue has a very distinctive sort of southern drawl, and people have a very set way that she speaks, similar to Harley Quinn in some ways. And I think that because of that, it does make me anxious to try it. Having said that, I did Calamity Jane, the whole show was Calamity Jane, and I'm not that I don't have confidence about the accent, but I think it's because she's so precious to me, and she is precious to other people, that you want to be, as you say, you want to get it right. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't do it. I will at some point. One of my other concerns is that I know some cosplayers who like to stay in character, like to go in character and stay in character, and I'm not really comfortable with that. And everyone does cosplay for their own reasons, and that's fine with me. But I do tend to get a little bit uncomfortable when someone wouldn't break character around me. I don't know, I just find it, I'm like, I don't know what to do, what do you want me to do? So I don't feel all that comfortable, so it's something I have to, and again, one of the pieces of advice I gave to new cosplayers was to kind of come out your comfort zone, and I need to learn my own lesson with that and try and take some heed. So yeah, I mean, I think I will try at some point. I'm with a group that we've recently, as I say, we did a photo shoot at Shatler, big X-Men one, and we've called ourselves the Uncanny Scotsman. So if anyone's interested in having a look or joining us, you're very welcome on Facebook. And we were talking about doing, rather than a fan film, because that's a massive endeavour, putting together a sort of fan trailer instead. And yeah, I kind of think, yeah, I could do that. I would do that, and I would work towards it, and I would have a set piece in my head. So it's one of these sort of milestones I think I need to try and set for myself, and feel good about it when I've done it myself. So yeah, eventually, watch this space.
Funny you should mention that, because I put up a posting on Facebook. By this point, it will be a while back, because I don't know when this interview is going to air. It was of a Suicide Squad parody done by Holly Hill, or right. Hollywood, sorry. No, Hollywood, sorry. And it's basically a musical video that's done off of the back of the Suicide Squad movie, and I'm like, I've just recently done a photo shoot of my Suicide Squad Hayden costume that was revamped, which there are pictures of it on my Facebook, so do please go along and have a look at different points in time, people. So I was watching this video, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm in love with this song, and I keep rewatching it. So I specifically posted it on my Facebook saying, should the parody be parodied? So again, watch this space, because who knows, I might poke a few people and say, hey, would you be interested in doing a parody?
And I'm sure they would be. They're so That's what I love about it these days, is it's not a lonely hobby.
Yeah, and it's not it's not a limited thing anymore. It's not just you cosplay and go to a Comic-Con. It's not just that. It's moved into so many different things, like you do photo shoots, you go and represent whatever character it is you're representing for the opening of a shop, or the opening of an event, or you can go to children's hospitals and entertain the children, or you can go and do this, X, Y, and Z. There's just so much that you can do. It doesn't just stop at a Comic-Con, which is fantastic. Exactly. So my next question for you is, moving back in time a little bit, when I first started cosplaying, all the reference stuff that I was getting was from America, like yourself. Everything I looked at came from America. It was mums and dads and children dressed up as various things in their home, picture taken, that was it. They were probably off to a fancy dress party. Anything that I could get on actual Comic-Con, there seemed to be a pattern from what I could distinguish. It seemed to be like a specific age group, which seemed to start somewhere between mid to early teens to mid 30s.
Yeah.
So I automatically thought, before going to my first ever Comic-Con over here in the UK, that, oh, that's the age group that I'm working with. That's the age group I'm appealing to. So I just automatically thought, right, that's that. So I went to my first Comic-Con, and I was so surprised when I seen so many different age groups all across the board. We had the age group that I mentioned, like the bracket, plus younger than that and even older than that. Like, I seen mums and dads and babies that could not have been less than 2 months old, or 2 weeks old even, push. And I'm like, whoa. And then you've got like I said, little tiny babies, and then grannies and granddads doing it, and I'm like, am I in the right place here?
Yeah.
When you first started it, I know that you kind of slightly mentioned that you had a similar experience of cosplay, like every piece of information you were getting was from America. Did you have a similar idea for the age bracket? Did you think, oh, it's going to be this set age groups?
Yeah, definitely, because it seemed to be, as you say, it seemed to be a lot of younger people in their teens, the late teens, early 20s. And I think my first few experiences of going to cons when I was a teenager and having to travel down to Leicester to go to Amicon, that was generally the age group that was there. But I have found, certainly in recent years, and again, the cosplay community was healthy in terms of things like Star Trek and Star Wars and Doctor Who and I'm trying to think of what else. Star Trek, Star Wars, Doctor Who. Yeah, in the United Kingdom, there were conventions, that people did go along dressed up, and there was far more spreads. I think what we have in terms of Comic-Con now, which is sort of more heavily biased towards comic book and anime, certainly there's a much younger age group at that point in time. And I think what's funny is there's a lot of people sort of my age, in their early 30s now, early to late 30s, who would have been that group at the time. They would have been the young people at the time who are still doing it, or who are now vendors or artists or whatever, and they're still involved. So I think there's a really healthy representation now across the board, because it's far more mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you had to look hard to find the different groups.
Definitely.
15 years ago, so,
Now, the next thing I've got to ask you on the age group thing is, when you're cosplaying as Rogue, do you see a specific age group approach you more so than any other age group?
Yeah. People who are about my age, because we are children of the atom, we are children of the original animated series, and those are the people who come up and are like, oh my god, Rogue was my favourite, I loved her and Gambit together, I loved her voice, and those are big boots to fill, you know, that's quite hard to live up to people's memories or childhood memories. That's pretty scary. So definitely that group. And I don't want to sound like you're, you know, stereotypical old person, but you don't get an awful lot of young people who approach you and go like, oh my god, you're wrong. They're like, who are you meant to be? For children. And again, sounds very stereotypical, but I don't blame them, because there's so much awesome stuff now for younger people to be into. It just wasn't really there when I was a kid. You know, there was a finite amount of stuff you could stream, or you could download, or you could watch. We didn't have Netflix, barely had cable, stuff like that. So yeah, I don't blame them. That they don't
we lived in the dark ages.
We did. I know. I mean, like, I remember like having a total meltdown because my dad was like, do you know, they're getting rid of cable. I don't know if we can afford to, you know, go digital. And I was like, but you can't. I've got Dragon Ball Z to watch, and I've got Gundam Wing to watch, and I've got all this other stuff, that Sailor Moon and Escaflowne and stuff that I need to watch on Fox Kids. Why are you doing this to me? You're ruining my life. So, you know, definitely total dark ages. You know, and I think people have got a much broader experience of different fandoms today. And I think even the idea of a fandom, you know, that you could be, you know, that you can, there's terms for these, there's names for these. That's something that only really started to kind of, you know, become a sort of theme online when I was a kid. You know, like I used to be a massive Team Rocket fan when I was a kid. So I was like, you know, this whole idea of being a rocket shipper and stuff like that was kind of new. And I think that's kind of just like a given now. So yeah, I think when it comes to cosplay, certainly people who are a little bit older than me and people in my age group are the ones who approach me. Other people, you know, you get the young kids who are like, who are you? Other people that just sort of look at you quizzically like, comic
so I've got a nice little story for you. And because of your profession, when you're not cosplaying, you might be able to explain this to me after the show. Okay. So I'm cosplaying for the very first time as my classic Harley. So I'm in the Joker t-shirt and the very amazing coat that I have, and I still have to this day, which was handmade for me, and I love the person that made it. You're an awesome individual. You know who you are. So I'm working the con floor, and I was one of only, like, altogether there was 5 male Harleys there that day. So I was one of the 5. And I'm walking the con floor, and I could not take a step. Like, I could not take 5 steps without somebody stopping me wanting a photograph. And I remember I just had walked past one Funko Pop, like, stall, and I was halfway between where that first one was and where there was a next one, because there was like 7 different stalls of Funko Pops there that day. And I'm like, okay, I'm almost at this next one. I think I can just make it. It's just under 5 steps. So I'm almost at the end of this aisle kind of thing, and I hear this little kid just scream, Harley! And all I could do was just, I stood there like this saying, please God, let that be another Harley. Please God, let that be another Harley. You know? And I turn around and I see that there's no other Harley in the aisle, and I'm like, you know, just like, like mentally just screaming, yeah. And this little kid comes running right up to me. Now, he could not have been older than possibly 5 or 6 years old. And he's so excited to see me. He's like, oh, Harley, you're awesome. Like, various other things. And I'm smiling and I'm like, yeah, And he says to me, can we get a picture? And I'm looking around at this point for like a parent figure to this child, and I'm like, is there a parent with this child? You know, and I see a father just kind of like walking towards me, and I'm like, okay, thank God. And he says, like, do you mind taking a picture with him? And I'm like, no, I don't mind. So I bend down next to him because I stand at a very firm 5'6", 5'7" So I bend down next to him and I pose with him, and as I'm posing, he grabs me and kind of like hugs me in the pose. So the picture gets taken. And I stand back up again, or at least I start to stand back up again, And he grabs me by the hand and he says to me, now, I want you to do something for me. And I'm like looking around at this point going, where the hell is this going? And he says to me, now you tell Batman if the Joker hits you again.
Oh.
And that melted my heart at the same time as like totally terrifying me. You know, because I'm like, obviously this parent figure has explained to the child what is going on there. And even if the parent hasn't explained it, because I think his dad was a little bit shocked by this as well, I was like, wow, the kid has understood what is going on there. And the even funnier thing was, later on that day, I saw him again. And it was while I was actually doing a photo shoot, or like a picture with a Joker, and the Joker's like fake strangling me. And he's like, he pointed at the Joker and went, and I'm like, oh dear God. And I'm like, he's only kidding on, I promise. So, weird interaction there. But our next question is props.
Okay, yeah.
Ever pain in the butt props. So props fall into two categories for me. They can go to a photo shoot or they can go to a Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Now, there are three subcategories which I'll go through really, really quickly. One being the prop is so big it breaks my back wherever I go. It's very hard to get it even out of the house.
Yeah.
The second being it's a medium-sized prop. It will annoy me if I'm having to carry it around for 7 hours. And the last one being it's so small it fits in my pocket and I'm good to go. When you're doing a Comic-Con event, which one out of the three that I mentioned there are you more inclined to take with you?
Again, for Rogue, there's not an awful lot of potential for a lot there. I think one of the things that I'm planning and I'm trying to get some headway with is I really want to do a strength pose with Rogue. So I really want to, I'm looking to commission someone to help me with it actually. To do, for example, there's a storyline where Rogue destroys Master Mold, so I really want to have like a part of Master Mold's face that I can hold up for it to be super light because I'm so weak. And I think I would take that to Comic-Con, but that's when you really need spotters and you need good friends who are willing to be your lackeys for the day and just be invisible people to help you with stuff. And I don't really, I wouldn't subject people to that.
Why not? I did. I did. My first Comic-Con, I took my cousin with me and said, "You're going to be my Sherpa and slave for the day."
Do you know? There are people. I do have lovely people in my life who would do that for me, and I may have to call upon them to do it. But yeah, I think probably in practicality, cosplays are not about practicality. So I think that you've got to try and make that as manageable for yourself. Again, if I could just, it's probably not fair to do it, but just expand the props into bits of costume, because that fits better for me. When I got my first professional shoots done at MCM with my Outback Rogue, most of the pictures that I saw of her were of her sort of flying, and she had sort of like these like heelless shoes. They were just almost like big stockings. And I thought, right, okay, how can I do this? So I bought the nastiest looking clear-heeled high heels you could imagine, and I built the boot around them. So I tried to give the impression. Didn't work very well, but people commented on how cool they looked, so that was fine. And I had to climb up this embankment just outside the SCCC, and I thought I was going to kill myself, and it was horrible, it was horrendous. So sometimes it's not the size of the prop, it's just the, how you use it, and I certainly feel sorry for people whose characters are signatured by the use of certain guns and stuff like that, and that weapons, is an issue for con goers, it's an issue for security and a lot of different things, but without the weapons your character's kind of meh, so I think, if the prop's appropriate and you have fully steeled yourself for what the experience is going to be like, then go for it.
Awesome. So you mentioned about your Rogue wig, and we have mentioned it as well. So instead of like asking you how long does it take you to make a prop or anything like that, I'm going to ask you, on average, how long does it take you to style the Rouge wig?
Yeah, I've got a couple of them here. To give you an idea, this is like my oldest Rouge wig that's kind of been with me since I was a teenager. And this one took a while because it was the very first one, and I had to sort of figure out, you know, how do I actually do this? It was a fantastic wig when I got it. It's a bit tatty now, I don't think you can see it very well in the light. But it was this bit, how do I do this? And the most obvious answer, probably to anyone but me, was to simply sew two wigs together. And that's what I did. I sewed two wigs together, and that was like a revelation. Like, this is amazing. You know, this is so easy to do. But I think in terms of the one that sort of, on average, they only take a couple of hours, because I tend to try to buy wigs that are almost exactly like I want them to be to start with. Simply because, you know, you don't have all the money in the world. There's some, if you're going to spend a bit of money, it's worthwhile spending it on a quality wig that looks how you want it to start with. The current wig that I'm working with at the moment, I love because it's a lovely chestnut colour and it's got lots of highlights and things through it. You can't really see very well, but and I wanted to go for the sort of messy 90s animated look. And so this one took a little while because it needed a lot of chopping, and I'm still not entirely happy with it, but it works for me. The one that probably took me the absolute longest is one that you're probably going to see if you're following my Facebook page very soon, because I'm doing a shoot with it probably this week or next week. Is my Age of Apocalypse wig, which was the hardest to do because it required a huge amount of chopping. And I'm actually delighted with the result because it was a kind of really dramatic graduated bob that kind of comes down to about here. And it's comic book hair is hard to do at the best of times. And I think it worked really, really well with the fringe and everything. So on average, I'd say probably about 2 hours top to bottom to get it right. I know a lot of people spend a lot longer on the wigs, but as I say, I tend to try and buy exactly what I'm looking for and work with that. So yeah, about 2 hours.
Awesome. So my next question for you is, what opportunities has cosplay opened up for you away from going to a Comic-Con? You know, so things like, for instance, you mentioned about emceeing at various Comic-Cons and working with the companies that do them. Have you had the opportunity to maybe go and do charity events, like going into hospitals and seeing sickly children, or even opening stores? So what kind of opportunities in that light has cosplay opened up for you?
I've had some opportunities for these things when the general cry goes out for help. I don't often volunteer myself simply because I realise that, again, Rouge is not the most mainstream of characters. So I kind of feel, for example, I'd love to do the children's hospitals, because not because it's a cosplay opportunity, but it's an opportunity for your hobby to do something really wonderful for someone else. Anyone who's done one of these visits will tell you it is not an easy thing to do. It is. You will leave that place. You know, whatever you think, you're not ready to go into these places and to deal with the problems these children have, these children and their families have. So I would recommend to any cosplayers, if you think, oh great, an opportunity to wear my costume, don't go, because it's definitely not the right attitude to have. You need to go there thinking that actually you have a skill set that can make a child whose life is you know, nothing like you could ever imagine because of these long-term illnesses. You know, you're going to actually be the highlight of their week, of their year. Not because you are you, or because they care what cosplayer you are or how many likes your Facebook page has got, but because to them, you're Superman, or you're Spider-Man, or you're Wonder Woman, or whatever. And I think that because of that, I'm aware that a lot of these kids don't know who Rouge is, so I don't put myself forward for these because, okay, I can show my cosplay off, big deal, I've got plenty of opportunity to do that. I'm not actually being of any benefit for these kids. Having said that, I did attend a Christmas fair that was raising money for, as a mother that I know whose child's has been in and out, unfortunately, due to seizures, and she was trying to, her child's a lot better now, and she was trying to raise money for what was York Hill Hospital, I think it's just Glasgow Children's Hospital charity now, and this was a fundraising event. So I said to her, listen, I'd love to come, but I don't think anyone will really know who I am. I don't know if it's a good idea. And she was like, no. I've got tons of, brothers and adult family members who'd love to see Rogue at this event. And I was like, okay. And she said, there's a boy coming along who, now, I don't like to ask, but he was wheelchair ridden, he had a feeding tube, he had very limited speech, and she said he loves Rogue. Rogue is his favourite. And I was a little bit dubious because she's not a comic book person herself, and I was like, I think you've got the wrong character here, but yeah, if you want me, I'll come. And I went along and I met this boy, and this boy was just delighted to see Rogue, and his family said, oh, Rogue is his favourite. He watches X-Men all the time and he loves her. She's just his favourite. And I was like, I'm so glad that I did that. It was wonderful. So if you are a kind of more mainstream cosplayer and you get these opportunities, go, because it's wonderful, but don't go lightly, know what you're going into. I did have another really fun one. A few years back, I was invited to be part of a music video for a local Glasgow-based band called Stoneface, and it was just the most fun. It was so much fun. It was great. It was called Superhero, and the whole theme was kind of like superheroes chilling out at a pub after their downtime. And my part of the video was to try and get into the club in the first place, and the bouncers knocked me back. So I got to just go all Rogue on them and took the gloves off and did all this kind of flirting and stroking their faces and blowing them kisses and knocking them out, and it was so much fun. It's so good. So
awesome.
Yeah, if you get any opportunities to do any of these things, go for it, because it's brilliant. It's so much fun.
Awesome. Yeah. So before we go on to the last question, I've got one more question for you, which is, given that you do a lot of Rogue cosplay, what is going to be the next Rogue cosplay that we see at your next event? The next Rogue cosplay the current Rogue cosplay that you're working on, so one that will happen like midway in the year, and what is a version of Rogue that you're thinking of doing that we'll see maybe towards the end of the year? So one that you're just really thinking about. So let's start with the one at your next event. So which form of Rogue will you be at your next event?
You're going to see a really, really serious, very dramatic Age of Apocalypse Rogue, because I love, as I said, the short wig. I love the cape. I love the fact that she is one of the leaders alongside Magneto of the X-Men. It's a different version of her. It's a different reality. She's much harder. She's lost. She and Magneto their powers are compatible. She has a family relationship. She has a child. She is serious. She is willing to sacrifice all of that happiness, her child, her husband, her ability to control her powers, in order to create a better future. So she's a really serious, powerful woman, and I'm really looking forward to that. So that's going to be the next one. That's going to be Edinburgh, and I'm doing a photo shoot with the very talented James Innes Cameron as Magneto sometime this week or next week with Mark Faramans, the photographer, so you should be seeing that fairly soon. So the next one's medium term, or one that I'm working towards.
You're working on that might come out middle of the year. Right.
I'm going to try to reboot a very obscure Rogue one that I've done, but it all depends on the wig. Again, stickler for the wig. I'm going to do a Shi'ar spacesuit Rogue. It's a variation that she only wore for a few editions of one of the comics, and it's a cerise pink spacesuit. So it's really weird. It's really out of the ordinary. Joe Madureira did the comic art for this particular storyline, and it's very anime, big ponytail, beautiful ponytail. So I'm trying to engineer that, but if I can get that, then that will be the mid-term. You'll probably see that maybe towards the summer, maybe MCM, maybe.
And very, very lastly, one that you're thinking, oh, I might do that one, or I might do that one for the end of the year. Like, so what is something that you might think towards November time?
Well, November time, I'm thinking that I would really like to do the very first, or one of the very first incarnations that we see in the comics. Where Rogue's the bad guy. and she has this really, again, it depends on the wig, really, really short, scraped back hair. She wears this green suit with massive shoulder pads, very 80s, and it's really severe, and it's going to let me explore the dark, the kind of villainous side of Rogue, because people forget that's where she came from. So that's going to be my dynasty, big big Dallas shoulder pads. Yes, that's going to be different. I haven't seen anyone cosplay that, so watch out for that towards the end of the year.
Awesome. So lastly, before we do the passover, I want to ask you, what advice would you give to anybody who is looking to start cosplaying but doesn't really quite know where to start?
Start where your heart lies. I mean, I think that you have to choose characters very carefully, and I think that there's different ways you can do that. You can choose, well, what's going to look good on me for my physical type. That's a good strategy. What characters do I love more than anything else? Another one to focus on. And what can I achieve in the time that I'm giving myself before this event that I want to go to? And I think that if you decide which of those three motivations is more important to you, and then you just knock yourself out and have a great time. That's my advice.
Awesome. So guys, that is very sadly the end of our interview. Don't forget to give us a big thumbs up, because we like our thumbs. And if you do have any questions, please do put them in the comments section. Do you see the comments section just like down there? And both myself and Rogue will do our very, very best to answer any questions that you have. Also, don't forget to... Sorry, I'm getting people popping up on my Steam. I'm just going to have to wait until they disappear. Don't forget to check out this lovely website right here, iGameOnline.net, which is free to sign up to, guys. Free sign up. And you can follow us not only on Facebook, but on our YouTube as well, where you can catch up with myself, and you can see what mad things are happening during my week, as well as Whisper Green Tops, Honey Jades, Zellies, Darklies, and Georgia Kitties in our weekly podcast. If podcasts though are not your type of thing, you can join myself and BVS and a whole host of other people on the TV Drop, where we get together and talk about all things TV and the occasional movie. Although if movies and TV and people's random weeks are not your thing, you can catch up with us on our tabletop sessions, where there is the Lord of the Rings tabletop role-playing session and a Dragonlance session, as well as a possible one-shot session that will happen sometime in the near future. So do check those out. However, if you just want to stick with the cosplay stuff, you can check out these people at Any UK, and you can catch up with the lovely Kobe Kicks, Little Rascal, and the amazing Alphabetti Cosplay, and find out what Comic-Cons they're going to, what advice they're giving on different cosplays, and possibly catch up with some other cosplayers and get their opinions as well. But if you do have a question and you don't feel too comfortable about putting it in the YouTube section down below, if you don't feel too comfortable about putting your question in the YouTube section down below, Rogue is very kindly going to give us some links where we can get a hold of her if we have any further questions. So Rogue, where can we get a hold of you if there is any further questions we have?
If you want to check out my stuff, or as you say, if you want ask any questions, you can get a hold of me on my Rebel Rogue Facebook page. You can also get a hold of me through the Uncanny Scotsman Facebook group if you'd like to join. We're a merry bunch. And I also have a cosplay amino that's under Rebel Rogue as well, so you can contact me through any of those avenues. Awesome.
And don't worry guys if you missed those, all of those links will be in the description of this video, so do go and check that out. Also don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more cosplay interviews, as well as more gaming video games and various other things. But in the meantime, I'd like to thank Rebel Rogue for taking the very precious time out of her schedule today to come and sit with us and talk us through some of the ins and outs of cosplay. I hope you've enjoyed yourself, Rebel Rogue.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much for inviting me to do this.
It's fantastic. Not a problem. And we hope to see Rebel Rogue making a return really soon on the show, or maybe on one of the other shows. Who knows? Keep an eye out. She might be popping up in the future. But in the meantime, I've been Jai, Rebel Rogue has been Rebel Rogue, and this has been Inside Cosplay, and we will be back again really soon. Bye, guys.